Today, we're going to be talking about the college admissions process. What's up, guys? My name is Fatia, and I'm currently a freshman at Princeton University. And while I was going through this exact same thing, I learned a lot of things along the way, a lot of tips and tricks that I've gathered, and I thought I would share them with you today, just to make you a little bit more knowledgeable and hopefully make your process a lot smoother. So what exactly is the college admissions process? Well, it's the process of you applying to all the colleges that you might have an interest in attending in the future. Applications usually begin around August because that's when schools will release all their prompts, and that way you know what essays you need to write for what school. The most important thing that I would say for this entire process is to just start early. I cannot stress enough how you don't want to be writing your essays a week or a few days before your deadline. The earlier you start, the better. Trust me. I know that starting things can be so difficult, and honestly, it's a daunting process, but once you start, I promise it'll be way better. Usually, I would recommend starting in the summer before your senior year. Many people, I would say before that, it's just a little too early, especially because all of the time that you spend in high school, all of the 4 years are very important to your experiences and your development. And so many of the essays that you're going to write are going to be from the 4 years. So if you start a little too early, you might not have gone through that developmental phase. But I would say certainly start thinking about it. And then in the summer before your senior year, you can jot down your ideas. Always keep like a notebook handy or a Google Doc where you can just brain dump. Because again, you want to get all your ideas onto a paper, and then later you can choose and pick which ones are better and worse than the other ones. So what colleges should you apply to? Well, if you've had a counselor or teacher talk to you about this, they'll most likely have shown you this image. This is kind of a study guide on how you should choose what colleges to apply to. Your bottom row are your safeties. These are the schools that you most likely will get into. Either your profile or GPA or SAT scores are way higher than what they expect out of you, or maybe you're already guaranteed a spot because you're in the top percentages of your class. Whatever these are the schools that you know you will most likely get into. Your target schools are the ones that you should be aiming for. These are the ones where your profile fits the demographic of the students there. You're not guaranteed a spot, but you have a fair shot. And then the target schools are higher up, where any student have a low chance of getting in, no matter what your profile is. These are probably your top tier schools, such as the Ivies, MIT, and Stanford. Now, this isn't a universal guide. You don't need to follow it very strictly, but it is a good thing to keep in mind. Now, something that I learned while I was doing this process is that being organized is very helpful. Like, very helpful. Making sure you know what essays are for what schools, for what deadline, can save you so much time, effort, and just will make sure that you don't miss anything. Now, the way that I did this is by creating a ginormous spreadsheet of all the colleges that I was going to apply to, and I suggest you should do the same. You can either create a Google spreadsheet or an Excel document and write down all the colleges that you want to or have applied to. Then you should go through all of their applications and then write down their deadlines, including if they have EA, ED, and regular decision. And then you should write down the prompts of all the supplements that you need to write for this. This, in the beginning, it takes a little bit of effort, but I promise having all this information in one place will be so helpful. Just because you can see what you have started, what you need to complete, and that way you won't miss any deadlines. A benefit of writing down all the supplementals is that you can pinpoint which ones are similar to each other across different colleges. This way you'll know that you can reuse one essay here for that essay over there, and it'll save you so much time and energy. You can highlight the boxes that are similar to each other in different colors, and then if you start an application, you can highlight it in yellow, and once you finished it, you can highlight it in green. This is also a great way to reward yourself, and it's kind of like a to-do list where you can check off the different colleges you've already applied to. Now, what do I mean by portal? Well, how are you going to apply to all of these colleges? You need a portal, and there are about a few common ones that most students use, including the Common App, the Coalition App, and QuestBridge. And then many states also have their own portal where you can apply to schools specifically within that state, such as Apply Texas and the UC application. This doesn't mean you need to make accounts for all of these portals. The main ones will feed you to most of the colleges. So you don't need to apply with Common App and Coalition, just choose one or the other. And there are a lot of application portals that overlap schools. So for example, if you wanted to apply to a school in Texas, you could either use the Common App or Apply Texas. Now there are many schools, such as the UC schools, where you can only apply through the UC application. The Common App doesn't have it, and you would need to make a separate portal for that account. The same thing for a school like MIT. MIT has their own portal, and you need to make an account with that portal to specifically apply to MIT. So you kind of just have to look around for what schools are where, and then if you don't find them on your main ones, they probably have a separate one. Now, I personally use Common App just because it's the one that I heard the most about. Most of my friends use that as well, so I will be talking specifically to that. But because all of these applications are very, very similar to each other, they apply to the Coalition, QuestBridge, and any other ones that you choose to use. So again, with making all of these different portals, just writing down your username and password onto your document can just be very helpful because again, you have all the information in one place. Now, when I was talking about writing down deadlines, I talked about 3 different things. There's ED, EA, and regular decision. Now, in the application cycle, there's 2 different rounds. There's your early round and then your regular decision round. In the early round, you submit your application a few months earlier, and then you'll get your decision a few months earlier as well. In the regular decision, you apply with most of the majority of the applicants, and that's just when their normal deadlines are. Now, there are 2 different EA plans that you could apply to. There's ED, and then there's EA. ED is early decision, and this is a binding contract to when you apply to a school. This means that if you are to apply to the school and you happen to get in, you are bound to go to that college, and it doesn't really matter what other colleges you get in to the future. EA is early action. This is a non-binding contract where you can still apply to a college early, but if you get in, you are not bound to go to that school. For early decision, you only can apply to early decision to one school. It doesn't matter whether public or private, one school is it. Because the entire notion of ED is that if you get accepted, you will be going there and you can't go to 2 different colleges. So ED is one school period, and then EA is as many schools as you want, but only one private school in there. I personally didn't really submit to ED. I think that was just a little too binding for me, and I also didn't have a school that I was dead set on applying to. But if you decide to apply ED, I would just make sure that you have fully thought it through, talk to your parents or your counselors or anyone who's there to guide you, just so you don't have regrets later on or decide to back out. There is, I think, a few loopholes to getting in and out of the ED system, but I did not tell you that, and I don't encourage you to go into applying ED while thinking that there is a loophole to get out. There are a few pros and cons to applying early. It just kind of depends on how you look at it. Yes, you do have less time to apply, but if you are to get in, you have way more time to celebrate and, look at housing and stuff like that and prepare for college. Applying early usually does demonstrate you have an interest, a higher interest than other students, but this only applies to so many different colleges. And although there's a notion that you may have a slightly upper advantage to the regular decision pool, usually how it works is that the people who apply early are the ones who are most interested and also the most qualified. So if you do decide to apply early, just remember that you're also being, compared and read against the other students who feel that they are also an applicant for early as well. So because of that shift in the early and regular decision, there's kind of a debate if there really is any advantage. It's just kind of your chances, how you view it, and if you want to apply early or not. With regular decision, you're just going to be submitting in the pool with the majority of students. These deadlines tend to be around January, and then you receive your decision around March, April, within a few months. And then for the early round, you have to submit your application, I would say around November, and then you get your decision in the middle of December. So it's just kind of dependent on you, if you can finish your applications, if you want to, if you don't, completely a personal choice. So what do you apply with? While I was applying to the Common App, I kind of categorized it into 3 different sections. There's your general, your activities and honors, and then your essays, of course. Your general is just kind of the information about you and your family, pretty straightforward. And then your activities and honors are a compiled list of any awards and then extracurricular activities that you've done throughout high school. In your honor section, you have 5 slots to submit, any certificates, awards, medals, things that you've earned over the past 4 years. If you have more than 5, then I would say choose your top most valuable, the ones that seem most impressive or the ones that are most important to you. And even if you don't have 5 to fill up, that's completely okay. And then your activity section has 10 slots, and these are the ones where you want to write down all the information about work experience, hobbies, volunteer, extracurricular, leadership positions, freelance, personal projects, stuff like that. Now you do have 10 slots, but this doesn't necessarily mean that you need to fill out all 10 slots. You filling out 10 different spaces with 10 things doesn't mean that you're a stronger applicant with someone who's only filled out 7. So again, I would recommend, when you're writing down all of these things, make a document, put all the things that you've done, and then rank them, because it is ranked. Your first is your most impressive, most valuable, most important to your application, whereas 10 being the least. But take this with a grain of salt, because if it's on your list, it's still important. It's just probably not as important as your first few. So take time to cultivate this list really, intricately, and pay a lot of attention to it, because this is a very significant part of your application. Your activities and honors will show the college admissions officers that you've been engaged, you've been a part of the community, and that's what they like to see. A tip that is not really a tip, just something I've learned while writing these essays, is that you don't have a lot of space. And so every single word, and in this case, character, counts. And so when you're writing all of these descriptions, you're not writing full sentences. You're not using proper grammar. You quite literally have 150 characters to explain what you did in this club. And so you are speed running, you have to maximize every single word. You're using lists, commas. It's okay. That's what you're supposed to do. And something I would suggest you do is to use online AI applications to help you write the best description possible. Now, I'm not telling you to use AI to write your descriptions for you. I'm not condoning, do not use ChatGPT and tell it to write you a description, because I can guarantee you that all these colleges have so many, online AI detecting things, and your writing just won't be as good anyways if you use AI to write your essays and supplementals for you. However, I do recommend asking to maximize verb use, to condense your sentences, and I would definitely recommend getting Grammarly throughout this entire writing process. I kind of got Grammarly throughout while I was in the middle of my first semester, so I got the 3 months, and that lasted me all the way until January. I recommend getting Grammarly because it will help you so much. You want good grammar. It is very important. Not only, right now I'm not talking about your activities and honors, I'm talking about your essays, and especially your personal statement. You want good grammar, and the way that you have that, even though Google Docs and the free version of Grammarly does help you, if you get the paid version, it will help you write more convincing sentences, take out passive voice. It'll just help you a lot more, and I think it's definitely worth it. And then also when you're writing your activities and honors, you can run them through Grammarly, just check some things, make sure if you're using bullet points or lists that they're grammatically correct. And so that's how you fill out the activities and honors. And then the last section, of course, are your essays. This is usually broken up into 2 different sections. You have your personal statement and then your supplementals. Your personal statement is your big 650 ginormous personal essay that goes to every single school that you apply to. This is the essay that you want to spend the most time writing, cultivating, editing, getting feedback on, because it's your most important essay. It's the one that the college admissions officer are going to read and take away everything or the majority of what they want away from you. That's how they're going to get to know you. Because all the supplementals, which are shorter and usually are there to supplement your main essay, you need a good foundation to have them to base off of. So when it comes to your personal statement, again, start early, because you're going to be revising this essay over and over, and I suggest that you should do that. The more you revise, the more you draft, the more versions you write, the better and more concise your essay is going to be. And the more you write it, the more you can hone in on the thing that you want to let the admissions officer know. There are about 7, common app prompts, and those usually stay about the same year to year. Those don't really change. If you just search up what those 7 are, you can choose any of them. And the most important thing about writing your essay is that you reveal something that is very, important to who you are, or it shows growth. You want to show something that will be valuable to the colleges. You don't want to, this is not just like academic writing or personal writing. It's actively writing about yourself in a very good light, and that can take a little while to get used to. So again, start early, and then it'll just come to you as you go. You can always collaborate with your friends. Again, use AI and online tools to your advantage, but do not use it to write your essays completely. Do not do that. And another thing I suggest is to read and listen to other people's essays. Now, there is a caveat with this. You don't want to read too many. As I said in my previous video, if you read and listen to too many essays, you might get overwhelmed and not know what style or what to write about, or anything like that. But it can be helpful to read through a few just to know what a good essay is like. And that way you'll have some pointers and you're not, completely going in the wrong direction. Now, when it comes to supplementals, like I said, these are your shorter essays, and every school has different supplementals, and they can change from year to year. Usually they stay about the same, but it just kind of depends. I know that from my application last year, Princeton added a new one this year that I did not have to write. So it's really kind of the luck of the draw. You can get started though. Again, they're not going to change dramatically. There just might be one added, one deleted, etc. So when you're writing these supplementals, one thing I should note is that you don't want to write the same thing in multiple different essays. Every single essay that you're writing is an opportunity to tell something new about yourself, and you don't want to be using that space to rehash something that you said in your personal statement or wherever else that you have writing. Usually your essays will correlate to your activity section. While I was applying, I saw a lot of people say that you want a cohesive theme with your application, which I kind of agree on. I mean, you don't want to be writing about a million different things. You don't want, your activities and honors to be completely different from each other, and then your personal statement about one thing, and then this about other. You do want to keep it to about 2 or 3 different ideas, just so, the college admissions officers can see that you've been interested and engaged in those few different things. So having a theme would be a good idea, but you don't need to rigidly stick to it. It's just a good idea to keep in mind. So with those supplementals, again, if you created that document in the beginning, you can see which ones are similar. Chances are you will have overlapping essays, and you can just reuse those ones. What might be different is the word count. So one essay might be 400 while the other one is 250. So you can still use the same essay. You're just going to have to spend some time cutting down and, again, condensing your essay to get the most important parts of the essay that you need. It's kind of dependent on flow. I'm telling you, the earlier you start, the more ideas you're going to have, the more revisions and more time to perfect you have. So I'm gonna keep saying it. The more you start, the more you work on it, the more your creative juices are gonna flow. And I promise you'll just be so much happier in the end when you're not cramming the day before your deadline. Now, moving on from the essays, there are some other things that you can always include in your application. If you do have, you're obviously going to be submitting your transcript, and there is an additional information section where if you feel like there's a gap in your education, or if there's a reasoning for a drop in your grades, or anything that you just want to explain to the admissions committee outside of your essays, you can add that in the additionals information box. Now, when you're putting down information here, you don't want to use this place to talk about yourself more. That's not what that section is about. That place is usually there just for students who need it, to explain their situation in that space. So I definitely wouldn't use it to like brag about yourself or talk about yourself, because your entire application does that. And I just have seen that that's kind of like a negative consequence. But if you need it, it is definitely there for you to use. Many students also submit portfolios. Portfolios are extra things that you submit with your application if the school allows it. And that can be from film to art to music. There are a lot of different types of portfolios that different schools accept. And these are there to enhance your portfolio or your application, but it's not considered a significant boost. Applying with a portfolio doesn't give you an automatic advantage to any major or any school really than another one. At least that's what I've seen. I'm sure that specified colleges, of course, if you're going to school for music, you're going to have to submit probably a music supplement. If you're going to an art school, you're going to have to submit an art portfolio. But general schools don't usually require that. It's just up to you. If you feel that your content is above par, or good enough for you to show to the colleges, that will make them think that you are a stronger candidate. I personally submitted a art portfolio to many of the colleges that I submitted. Interestingly enough, I did not submit one to Princeton. So again, it's just kind of up to you. If you are to create that, there are usually different websites and things that you have to make your portfolio on, but there are dedicated ones that colleges will want you to use. From what I know, while I was making my art portfolio, I had to use Slide.Room. And so just make sure that you follow the instructions so that you're not submitting the wrong thing. So definitely pay attention to that. And again, it's just a choice, but doesn't give you a significant edge. I've heard that it's a good way for college admissions officer to see your talent if you think it'll make your application stronger, but they're not usually the ones that judge you on your work. At least I've heard, I was listening to a podcast and they said that they send over your work to that department, have them review it, and then they get back their score, or how they think you are as a student. So it's not the admissions officer usually grading you on that. It's other people in the department that you're submitting for. So just keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to getting a decision, there are 3 things that can happen. You can get rejected, you can get accepted, and if you are to apply in the early round, you may get deferred. If you get rejected, then you get rejected. Guys, this is a holistic process. You're applying to so many different colleges, and getting into one college does not define who you are. There's so many different colleges that will accept, will not accept you, and they have absolutely nothing to do with each other. Guys, I promise it'll be better. If you get rejected, don't be upset about it. Do not cry like I did once upon a time. It is completely okay. There are better things coming for you, and you will get into the college that you were meant to go to. Now, if you get deferred in the early round, this means that you applied early, and then when they gave you your decision, they couldn't really decide if they wanted to accept you or not. This means that they deferred you, which just means that they need to take a look at your application again in the regular decision round. So ultimately, you just become a regular decision student, and you would have to wait till the regular deadline to receive your decision once again. This does not mean an automatic rejection. If they wanted to reject you, they would have. It's not an automatic acceptance. So it's just kind of like you have to wait a couple more months. I was deferred in my choice of EA, and it's completely okay. So if you do get deferred, there are a lot of steps that you can take to strengthen your application. There are a lot of, you have to continue doing work at your school, keep your grade up, stuff like that. But again, it's not the end of the world. And then if you get accepted, congratulations, you've just gotten into a college of your choice. And if you are to get accepted in the early round, this means you probably get your decision around December. You still want to continue doing well in your classes, because I know a lot of colleges who accept early will ask for your transcript of your second senior semester grades. And so if they see a significant drop, I know that some colleges have pulled their acceptance, and you definitely don't want that to happen to you. You don't need to, be top notch. It's okay if you relax a little bit, but going from, an A student to a B is okay. Then going from like an A to a D, you don't want that. Just keep your grades. And again, if you get accepted, congratulations. Now you have time to think if that's a good fit for you, housing, how things are gonna work. You have more time to prepare. And I think that's all I have to say. I think I covered many of the things. Again, throughout this process, there are just so many things that you are gonna learn about yourself. There's so many things that you will see will help you or will not. You don't have to take everyone's advice, but it is a good idea just to start thinking about it, taking feedback as you will. And again, a lot of people have a lot of different things to say about this process, and so you kind of need to filter what you take to heart and what you don't. Everyone has a different process. Everyone has a different application. Do not compare yourself to the people around you, because like I said, the colleges are not thinking the way that you are. Even if you think you have no choice or chance, you do. I promise you do. Comparing yourself to anyone, whether that's someone online or your peers, is just completely pointless. You are your strongest applicant, and I would just focus on yourself and how you can make your application the best that it can be. I hope that I was able to tell you guys a little more about this process. I hope you took away some information, a little bit more knowledge from this video. Let me know if I answered your questions. If there's any other questions that I didn't answer, let me know in the comments, and I'll see if I can answer them. But yeah, I hope this was helpful for you. You should totally like and subscribe, and stay tuned for my next video. Bye guys.